Yo, 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 yo. What's good with it? It's the homie Mac. Music, art, culture, knowledge, reporting live from the Dogon. Each one teach one, peace and love. Real quick, this is a session of Mac Minutes. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel 82 Kings. Smash that like button. Can't stress that enough. This is a session of Mac Minutes. This session of Mac Minutes will be entitled "Why I Quit Teaching." I have to. There's a whole myriad of things on my mind concerning this subject and why I made the decision that I made. So I have to time myself because this could just this could go on forever. So yeah, let me time myself. Yeah. So why I quit teaching? First of all, I went to Georgia State University. I got my degree in education and no, not education. I actually I was not an education major. I got my education in history and public policy. I had aspirations to become a college professor. Yeah, I'm definitely going in a different route now because I'm headed towards nursing, becoming a registered nurse. But real quick, my father's an educator. I come from a lineage of educators. My dad is very much a bibliophile scholar. He inculcated that within myself and my sister. Big on education, big on information, knowledge, understanding, wisdom. That was a cornerstone in my childhood, in my house, in my household. So yeah, hit the ground running. Try to follow in my father's footsteps. He is an educator, like I said. I taught fifth grade. I taught the subjects I taught were science. I love science. Science and social studies. Social studies being history. I know the terminology is kind of history and social studies. They intertwine. I guess people use those titles how they see fit, but they're the same thing pretty much. Yeah, but you knew that. Yeah, real quick. Those are the subjects I was teaching: social studies and science. Fifth grade, I taught at a Title I school. For those who do not know, Title I schools are pretty much delineated from other school districts, not school districts, but other schools in context of being low in performance and in being also in poverty-stricken areas. I want to say I had a lot of zeal. I was really excited about becoming an educator. And I respect the field, but it just was not for me, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. I want to say one of the first things I started off with teaching was the Haitian Revolution. I started off with the Haitian Revolution. I was teaching a lot of black students. I had a couple Mexican students, but primarily my students were black. I did not want to give them, I wanted them to have some color in their history. And I wanted it to be something that was not just civil rights and slavery. So I taught the Haitian Revolution. The kids were very responsive to it. I was, to my surprise, really, I wasn't sure how they would take to it. I know when I got my evaluation, a lot of the people who were evaluating me, they learned a lot. They were like, wow, because the way it starts off, rituals, they had this thing called rituals and routine, where pretty much you just get the kids ingratiated with having a routine and a schedule. But it's for like the first 2 weeks. And the curriculum was not really stressed at that time. It was just more about socializing the kids for school. So yeah, I started off with the Haitian Revolution. Again, the people who were evaluating me, they said they learned a lot because they didn't really know about the Haitian Revolution. And these are people who were like old enough to be my parents, and I was kind of shocked by that. But I guess I shouldn't have been too shocked. Our education system is very whitewashed, it's very Eurocentric in nature, and that has been passed down from generation to generation to generation. I'm thankful that I met a man named Dr. John Henry Clark in my studies, and a man a man that just had a very Dr. Joseph Ben Yakanan as well, men who had a very overwhelming influence on my life. and how I viewed history. But that's a whole nother story. I want to say being in the classroom, the hard part for me was seeing generational trauma daily, seeing things that I went through, seeing things that these kids are going through, which reminded me of the things that I went through. And I can tell you, it's a cycle. You know, a lot of them, they came from broken homes. It's safe to say their parents incurred a lot of the same things that they themselves did when they were kids. It's just, you see, I remember having parent-teacher conferences, and I could just see the culture of the household. Just seeing how much poverty, indigence, disenfranchisement, how much it has like a chokehold on communities, specifically the black community, and it limits the scope of thinking. It makes your worldview very narrow. You're stuck on survival mode. You're not really thinking about school. Just to be honest, one of the things I really struggled with was trying to get the kids to see why education was relevant, why it was necessary. And the thing is, like, once you leave my classroom, I had some students who had positive reinforcement at home, but for the most part, they didn't get it. They didn't get that reinforcement. None of them. It's safe to say, not many of them saw how education could be transformative and lead to social mobility. Typical stuff. They saw a lot of crime. Admired a lot of typical stuff. Admired a lot of people who were doing things that were illegal. Guys that were hustling, maybe gang banging, doing a lot of things that were very destructive. I guess the thing, but none of that is new. It's that, unfortunately, that's the norm. With me, it was really hard trying to reach some of the children because they simply didn't care. There's a whole litany of reasons why they didn't care. But it took a toll on me because I feel like I spent so much time just trying to hold their attention, and then it got to a thing where I felt like I was always breaking up fights. It was more disciplinarian type things, and I felt like the disciplining that I was doing, it took away from the education, the learning experience. And I can honestly say I was breaking up so many fights. I actually had a student put his hands on me, and I didn't beat him down, but I restrained him. But I realized, like, in so many subtle ways, it did kind of give me anxiety, trying to figure out, okay, if this person is walking towards me, just things that I was seeing. I was more cautious about my space and my peripheral vision. One of the main things I remember about being a teacher, outside of that anxiety, was just always feeling tired, mentally feeling drained from lesson plans, like this, going over the curriculum, grading papers. Because what people don't understand is when you're a teacher, it's not one of them things where you just clock in, clock out, and your day is over. No. A lot of times we had these things called IEPs, which was pretty much like behavior, pretty much notating, keeping a log on children's behavior, medication, how they're interacting with other children. Some of the IEPs were like thicker than 5 Bibles. Again, it just became a lot to deal with. I'd get off work at 2:45. Get off at work at 2:45. Sometimes we had meetings with the faculty and staff over different initiatives we were trying to push in the school, things of that nature. But on average, when I would get home, I would be beat from the day. Just the the mental gymnastics, dealing with the kids, trying to keep my composure, checking my ego, checking myself, and trying to make sure that I am being effective in how I execute my lesson plan, and that I'm actually reaching these children and they're processing the information and retaining it. That was very stressful. I would go as far to say there needs to be teachers need therapy sessions. Teachers need there needs to be a mental health initiative strictly for teachers, because there's a lot that you have to deal with being in the education. But again, I always felt tired when I got home. I would take a nap, wake up, and it's dark outside, and then now it's like the rest of my evening is pretty much either grading papers, going over my lesson plans, just making sure that I'm ready for the next day. And I'm not trying to say, like, teaching I think is a great profession. It just wasn't for me, unfortunately. Or maybe fortunately, it just wasn't for me. Wasn't part of my calling. But whenever I connected with those kids and they learned, it was dope. It was a beautiful thing. I think I came in there thinking, like, this is going to be freedom riders, dangerous minds, lean on me. Like, I'm about to be out here transforming lives. And that zeal, that zest, it was good. I started off with it, but I think then you just kind of, if you don't pace yourself, you'll hit a wall. You'll get worn out. One of the things, and I thought I would never have to say this, I had to learn how to use the bathroom efficiently. And by that, meaning, you're a justice of the peace. You have to watch over the children. But, your body still has its natural functions. And there'd be times where I had to go to the bathroom, but I couldn't go because I didn't have a teacher that could look over my kids. Or I'd have to, and this may sound crazy, I would actually ration out the times I would eat, so I know, like, around the time that my body would process it. And after I got my pattern, I knew when I would go to the bathroom. And when, my body just kind of adjusted. But yeah, and my bladder's a G. But yeah, man, that was something that I did not think I would have to worry about, like going to the bathroom. You can't just leave the kids. But yeah, another thing, just the pay. Considering the things that you have to deal with. And I know people say, you shouldn't do it for the money, and I get that, but we live in a capitalist infrastructure, and moral fortitude, goodwill is not necessarily not that goodwill doesn't pay your bills. I know people always talk about, well, you guys get the summers off and you yada yada yada. Yeah, you get the summers off, but again, that day-to-day grind of being a teacher is no joke. Parent-teacher conferences, things of that nature, dealing with the kids and their trauma. I didn't realize how many maternal instincts I had. I realized I had to be, maternalistic in some ways, like a brother, a father, cousin, big brother, whatever. I had to be all that in one. Nurse, which is what I'm in school for right now. But yeah, having to juggle all those hats, it can be a lot to deal with. I don't think people understand how invaluable of a resource educators are, specifically the educators that care. My heart goes out to them. I think another thing that I disliked about teaching, which led me to quit, was I got into a depression. I had a student who had a bullet in his head. There were girls. There was a little girl in my class. We caught her looking at porn on my phone. Not on my phone, on her phone. I was teaching 5th grade. She had her phone. We caught her looking at porn. And it wasn't no Showtime porn. This is like hardcore. Like, I know what I'm doing. I know what I like. I'm going through all the stuff. Yeah, and the thing that scared me about that is if she could watch things like that, it made me feel as though somebody may be touching her. Sexual behavior was just really normalized. And I just know I had students that were being abused sexually, physically, verbally. It was just a lot, man. That stuff was depressing. And knowing what these kids are up against, One of the things I used to tell them is like, you may not like school, but you have to understand it is a part of the life process. The prison industrial complex is real. School to prison pipeline is real. Like I told them, like they built prisons based off of y'all failed test scores because they see the nexus between criminality and lack of education. So they figure we're gonna make if you can't make money for yourself, we're gonna make money off of you in this prison system. But yeah, all the aforesaid, all those factors in the depression, the anxiety, just always feeling tired. I remember always feeling tired mentally and physically to a great extent. And I guess, again, it was dope when the kids were really learning. The kids that wanted to pay attention, feeling the connection. It was dope. And I really beat myself up, but there needs to be, for quitting, but there needs to be a revitalization, a revolution within the education system. Because I just found out what 50% of teachers quit within their first 5 years. And I think that's very telling. I don't think, we don't, I think us as a society, I've been to other countries, specifically in Europe, they treat their educators like they're Beyonce, like they're Jordan, like they're LeBron, like they treat them like how we treat celebrities, that's how they treat educators, especially in Germany. But yeah, just I think our value systems in this country are very much stuck on entertainment. I think we're highly entertained. I think we're undereducated. I think we're silly about all things serious and serious about all things silly, as Dr. Neely Fuller Jr. would say. I think that's what the paradigm is. The main thing I really tried to stress to my kids was being aware, being knowledgeable. I used to tell them, like, you want your brain to be, to have a fighting chance. To have a fighting chance, you have to have information. More information you have, the more you can maneuver.